Hello and welcome to our live podcast episode. Today we want to talk about universe's laws. And yeah, it's just going to be a discussion as usual. Um, and we welcome any questions, whether it's afterwards or if you're watching live, you can ask questions and we'll address them at the end. So I'm Kat Bazilko and I have Melanie Stevens with me.
Hi everyone, I'm Melanie. I'm a spiritual teacher and Reiki master from Devon.
Brilliant. Right. So so let's start, I suppose. I was curious to see how we will both go about it because when I was researching the laws of the universe, I have found 12, but there are, I know, 7 of the Hermetic principles, which also are included within the 12 universal laws. Basically, from what I understand, the universe's laws, the 12 of them, have come from ancient cultures, including a Hawaiian culture, but also I think mainly the Hermetic philosophy is going back to ancient Egypt specifically. So, like I said, within the 12, there are 7 of the Hermetic principles anyway. Although I think I've seen one of the Hermetic principle that I haven't seen on the list of the 12 universal laws. But otherwise, they seem to repeat. So, yeah, that's just a little intro. And I guess it's a nice subject to talk about because anyone who starts being interested in spirituality and how the universe works would learn of topics such as probably the most popular one, law of attraction, that everyone seems to want to work with through manifesting, and also the law of divine oneness. That's also something that's being repeated quite a lot. So those are the couple of examples of those laws. So I thought it would be nice to maybe just go through them. We'll see if we fit it all in 1 hour, most likely. And then, and if anyone has questions, as I said at the beginning, you can always ask us if you're watching this on replay or live. So, Mel, as I always usually ask you to open the subject, I suppose. Is there anything that you'd like to start with?
I think this subject is, like most subjects we approach, is pretty huge. And I think that by starting with some of the more common universal laws, I think people will realize they are actually quite familiar with some of these, even if they've not heard them called universal laws and they've not researched them. They'll know that everyone's heard of the law of attraction, like attracts like. Everyone's heard of karma. They just might not know how to explain it or how it works, but they will have witnessed it in their lives. And as I was just mentioning to Kat, I've got my fingers in some of the pages, so I won't take my hand out, but I've got this book here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really good book. Now, this only talks about the 7 spiritual laws, and it's by
What's the
Deepak.
book? Could you tell us, for those who are not watching the video?
Of course, sorry for your podcast. It's called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. It's written by Deepak. It's a practical guide to the fulfillment of your dreams, and he kind of approaches it from a manifesting the life of your dreams perspective. And he talks about it as if you want to manifest the life of your dreams, you need to understand these 7 universal laws, or 7 of the 12. But actually, they're beneficial for life, for all areas of life. It's not just attracting what you want and focusing on abundance. They're just beneficial to learn and understand why certain things happen, why certain things come back to us, and how we are consciously or unconsciously creating the life that we see around us by our own actions and our internal state. So it's a very good spiritual book for anybody who's into spirituality, whether they're interested in universal laws or not, because you probably wouldn't know you're interested in them until you start reading about them, and then you think, wow,
Mm.
this is actually hugely impactful for me in my life.
Yeah, I would even add that many of them do now correlate with the laws of physics that have been established over decades now. So, because I remember when I before I opened up, let's say, the spirituality, I was very keen on finding out the history of physics. Not like I'm not good at physics. I'm not saying that, this is something that I've been always interested in. However, I always wanted to understand it. So I have found a number of lectures that would that were built so that for those who are not, I always get called on physicists. For those who are not physicists, but want to understand the whole history from start to where we are now. So how did it start with Newton's laws and how we ended up with quantum physics? And it's a very nice overview. So so whenever I was reading those 12 or 7 universal laws, I could see how they correlate, except I suppose with physics, it kind of started with, or is mainly kind of focused, or was, because like I said, it's changing with quantum physics, but it's mainly focused on the physical effects of basically the same energies. So yeah, so basically, really, it's all the same. If you really look at it from both perspectives, I would be very curious to find or meet a physicist who's also spiritual. Personally, I don't know anyone. But yeah, anyway, so shall we start maybe just going through them? It would be interesting to see what you have in the book, how it
Mm.
starts, as what the first law is in there, I suppose.
So, I mean, the 7 that we've got listed are: there's the law of pure potentiality, the law of giving, or giving and receiving, really, the law of cause and effect, also known as karma. I wish they'd just use one word to describe these things because
Mm.
it gets confusing. But again, that's one people will have probably heard of. The law of least effort, which is my favorite, the law of intention and desire, and the law of detachment. And the last one is the law of dharma, or purpose in life. And these are the 7 that Deepak has listed in his book. Are they in the 12 that you?
No, actually, those sound, well,
Interesting.
some of them, but those are not the ones that I have in mind. So so within the 12, one is the law of divine oneness. Then we have law of vibration. Then law of correspondence, which is one that is mostly known with the saying as above, so below, as within, so without. Law of attraction, law of inspired action, law of perpetual transmutation of energy, law of cause and effect, so that definitely is there. Law of compensation, which is kind of like law of karma, I would say. Law of relativity, law of polarity, both of those, relativity, polarity, especially you can hear in physics as well. Law of rhythm, and then law of gender.
Okay, interesting. So are they more physics-based universal laws, and these are more spiritual
No.
laws? I don't know,
Oh
actually.
no, these are the ones that I'm reading. The 12. These are they're so, excuse me. They're originating from ancient cultures such as Hawaiian culture, and also are attributed to the Hermetic philosophy going back to Egypt. So, for those that might be a little bit familiar with like the Emerald Tablet, and
Yeah.
Thoth.
I never know how to
Yeah,
pronounce it. I think it's Toth, but it's written with an H.
yeah. So the Hermetic laws were created by Thoth. Thoth, or how he was known in Egypt, because he also had different name. I think it was Hermes in Greece. I'm just reading. And so that he has, so his work, he influenced both ancient Greek and Egyptian cultures. So Egyptian culture called him Thoth, and in Greece he was called Hermes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was known as the great master of the universe at the time. So, and then his 7 hermetic principles were passed down by word of mouth from teacher to student. And then eventually they were compiled in a book called the Kabbalion or Kabbalion. But within those 12 universal laws that are not just the hermetic principles, but like I said, other ancient cultures such as Hawaiian. So those 7 laws are also the same that are in the 12, apart from the first one that's called the principle of mentalism. But it sounds the same as, because this principle, it says that the universe is akin to mental projection. So it just talks about using our thoughts to shape our reality. For anything to be, a thought must precede it. So it's kind of like the law of correspondence, I think.
Yeah, and also the
So,
law of intention and desire is the same thing. So I think it's
right.
different people naming them in different ways, but it's the same principle, because intention and desire is about creating with our thoughts. And like you say, nothing that's manifest ever becomes manifest without the thought that triggers it. We created the whole universe through the use of our collective mind. So I think that is probably the same universal law.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty sure, although in your book they're kind of named differently, I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure they will still correlate with the same, the bottom line is still the same,
Yeah.
sounds like. So yeah, so I wasn't sure whether we wanted to just go through. I mean, actually, if you have a list of slightly different names, we could start with your list, the laws that you have, and then we try and correlate it with the other 12, and then just have a little chat about it. And then we'll see where it goes, and how long it takes us, if we'll need another part 2 or not.
We might do. We might. I think that would be good, because when I start to sort of describe how Deepak has talked about these in the book, I think you'll find that they're on your list somewhere. Just that he's named them something else. Maybe he's named them something that he thinks is more easy to understand. I don't know, but I think it's the same
So
stuff.
does it say in his book like how he came about like writing the book, or?
I've just had a look through that in the introduction. I've read this book before, but it was a little while ago, and it doesn't. He talks about them being 7 spiritual laws of success. So he sort of frames the book to help
Right.
people to manifest and create. So that might be why he's named them in that sort of way, so people can get their head around how to use them. But he hasn't said where it's come from. He talks about creation. He talks about spiritual laws and what the word law necessarily means. He hasn't said where they've come from, but as they're spiritual laws of success, he's probably pulled out universal laws that relate to creation and abundance and manifesting things in your life, and put them together in this book. So this isn't a comprehensive, these are all of the universal laws kind of book. I think this is actually geared up towards success and
Right.
creating things in your life. So he talks about the law of pure potentiality. I'm just gonna read the opening couple of lines, because they describe it better than I could. So the first spiritual law he talks about in terms of law of success is the law of pure potentiality, which is based on the fact that we are, in our essence, we're pure consciousness, and pure consciousness is pure potentiality. It's the field of all possibilities, which is something I often hear in the spiritual sort of movement, the field of all possibilities and infinite creativity. So it's sort of talking about how our essential nature is one of pure potentiality. And instead of thinking, well, I can only achieve certain things in my life because that it depends what's here on the earth, this is sort of saying, no, that's not the case. Things that aren't on the earth have come to be because somebody has thought them into existence. You can
Mm.
think anything into existence. Look how far humanity has come in the time we've been on the planet. It's incredible the things that we create. So this universal law is reminding people that, you know, don't think, oh, I'm limited by just with the resources and the stuff I've got on the planet, because you're not. You've got unlimited possibilities in your life, and you've got unlimited potential. So, is there anything that you've read that's the same kind of message?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's quite a few of them at once, I would say.
There's definitely
Like,
some crossover, the same as in this book as well.
yeah, because you have, so for instance, the first that were coming to me when you were saying that, like everything is thought, because within this space of pure potentiality, then really you can think up anything,
Yeah,
right? So that's kind of like what's, as they say, as above, so below. So however you create your reality, what you think about can manifest, which also would probably encompass law of attraction in itself. And then I'm just looking, and also probably the law of vibration, because the law of vibration just tells us that everything has a vibration, everything has a frequency, and that can inform our lived experience. So, and then also, and then also, I don't know if I mentioned that law of relativity, because everything is relative to your own experience and your own beliefs. So really, you have this pure potential always to your disposition, and then it depends on you. How do you approach it, and where do you dip your energy into, I suppose. How do you use this energy of potentiality? Are you experiencing any blocks? Are you creating blocks through beliefs, through your thoughts? How are you putting it all into manifested into manifestation, basically? So yeah, so
yeah, there's definitely a lot of crossover with a lot of them, and it gives us, you know, a slightly different way of looking at a similar thing, I think, really. And if this is, you know, how our human minds need to be able to grasp concepts and understand things in order to get the feeling, you know, you get those feelings of, oh, I get this now because it just feels right, but we need to intellectually understand these first. And I think for me, the law of pure potentiality is one of my favorites. It just reminds me, stop limiting yourself with your own thoughts and beliefs. Stop creating a limited reality of, oh, well, if I want point B, I've got to go to point A, and then I've got to take 15 stops on the way, and it's going to be very difficult. Well, if I say that, it's going to be very difficult. Whereas if I say this is going to be an easy journey and I'm going to get to point B much faster, then that's going to be the outcome. And it just reminds me that, you know, we mustn't limit ourselves, but our human brains our minds can get in the way sometimes. So it's just expanding that out and recognizing that everything is possible. Every single thing is possible. So I do like that law.
yeah.
The second one that he talks about is the law of giving, which really is the law of giving and receiving. And this is about, you know, talking about the universe that operates through dynamic exchange, nothing being static, and recognizing, you know, our bodies are in dynamic and constant exchange with the body of the universe. Our mind is interacting with the mind of the cosmos. So it's more about harmony, this one. It's more about harmony, and giving and receiving happen to be in balance. And I guess this might also be similar to the law of polarity, potentially. So because there's this constant exchange in life, and nature exchanges and we exchange and everything exchanges, it's actually a universal law. It's not all about take all the time, because that wouldn't be possible. It's possible to receive because it's possible to give. And it's about that balance creating that harmony.
Yeah, so that definitely, that kind of sounds to me like also the cause and effect
Mm,
law, where are you the cause of something or are you an effect of something happening? Because when we exchange energy in any way, whether we give, if we give, we receive, when we receive, we give. And if we keep that going, then it like kind of keeps the balance.
exactly. And nature's
Um,
all about balance as well, isn't it? It's something that we see all around us. I really like this though, because this got me thinking how he's brought it into the seven spiritual laws of success when he talks about money. If we try to stop the circulation of money, if our intention is to hold on to our money and not let anyone have it and hoard it, because money is life energy, it will stop its circulation back into our lives as well. So in order to keep the money coming in, we have to keep the energy circulating. And I've heard a couple of spiritual teachers talk about this. If you get so frightened of losing your money that you hold on to it, you'll stop it coming in because you're not balancing it with give and receive. You have to spend a bit of money to receive a bit of money. That's how the universe works. That's how the energy of money works. And I really like the fact that he sort of brought that in, because that helped me at a time when I thought, oh, I've got to hold on to every penny I've got because there's not much coming in. Well, that's why there's not much coming in, because you're holding it in fear of losing it instead of enjoying it and balancing that energy. So that was quite a big aha moment for me.
yeah, that's a big one. It's
Mm,
it's one that I kind of give an example of on in my manifestation workshop. So I've created a manifestation workshop, but it's a workshop around manifesting the big things. That's kind of how I felt drawn to doing it. If we really wanted to change something like in a big way in our life. So instead of small things, I suppose, I don't know, just if we're just completely unhappy with something. And I mentioned an example of how there are many examples of people who would win a lottery, but quite soon they just spend all the money
mm,
and they are back to point zero. And that obviously can stem from many things, but it could be the because you were talking about the giving and receiving and the flow of things. But it's also kind of like it makes me think of the vibration that we exude when we either stop that flow or we let that flow or we go with the flow, and let things move. We could, with our beliefs, we could stop the flow in that particular example of abundance. Let's say if they were, they maybe felt, abundant, let's say for a little while, but they couldn't vibrationally, they couldn't hold on to it, and so it disappeared eventually. You know, so yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of muddled it up a little bit now because I was going somewhere else with it. But yeah, it's and it's the same then when you say you give and you receive. If you're blocking yourself from giving, then most likely you will be blocked from receiving as well.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and
And
vice
it's
versa.
and vice versa.
Mm,
Very interestingly, I think you can kind of try and maybe see which, let's say, camp you fall into. Are you the one who struggles with giving, or are you the one who struggles with receiving? And how that shows up in your life, because chances are that you might be over compensating in one of these areas also. So it's not just about, let's say, not giving and then you won't receive, but if you give, and don't let yourself receive, that's also going to create an imbalance. And then that being probably based on your kind of vibration that you're living in.
Yeah, definitely. Really big lesson, that one. I think a lot of people learn that at some point in their lives, whether they give too much or whether they receive too much. There has to be not exactly 50-50 balance, but there needs to be that energetic balance of,
Mm.
making sure that that's flowing properly. It's all about flow, isn't it, really? It's
And
about,
also with that flow, actually, that one thing that just came to my mind, I don't know if that maybe relates to it in any way, but I've heard quite a, I thought, interesting suggestion. It was um, shared by a lady whose work mostly focuses on building intention in your life. And so, I mean, I would say I would translate her work into work of, she sits within the law of attraction, manifestation, that kind of stuff. But she names it in a sense of intention. So, how to create big intentions in your life that will then, come to be and will show themselves up in your life in a physical manifestation of some sort. And she said something about when you're working on manifesting, or trying, again, let's just call manifesting changing something in your life, right? Because that's the bottom point of it all, the reason for it all. If you feel like, so with that giving and receiving, because many people, I think a lot of us have been taught that receiving is bad and it's selfish and you shouldn't. So, you're only worthy or valuable if you give, right? If you give of yourself and you give and you give. So, although that's not great, but if you already sit in that belief, it might be easier for you to manifest something in your life if you show up being the thing first. So, for instance, I think she was talking about, I don't know, let's say love. I think that's an easy example. If you want to find a loving partner, then are you giving? Are you being a loving person generally, to people? Also, obviously, we're talking about with boundaries and everything, but are you exuding, are you being this love? Because if you bring it out into the world, then it will come back to you as well. So, and we're kind of like going into that flow of things, I think, in that particular example, because you're not creating the blocks of trying to maybe battle with the beliefs that could be very, very deeply ingrained of, thinking that receiving is really bad. So let's just leave that aside so that you're not creating this huge block for now. Just, okay, let's just be in that case without any expectation
yeah.
in return. And then as cause and effect, the law of cause and effect will bring it back round, basically.
Exactly, exactly. And I wrote I wrote a little blog on it, actually, interestingly. I went to, it was something really small, but it was just a perfect example. I went to meet somebody in a town and I had to go and find a car park, and I paid for my parking ticket. But the lady that was in front of me at the machine turned around and looked like she couldn't work the machine or something was going wrong. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, I need 20p. I'm 20p short. And I said, "Oh, I've got 20. Here you go." And I gave it to her. And she said, "Oh, thank you. That's really kind." So she was able to buy her ticket. So then I queued up and bought my ticket, forgetting all about it. It's 20p. But she came over to me and said, "Oh, my daughter had got 20p. So here's your 20 back." And I said, "Oh, thank you. That's really sweet. Oh, you didn't have to." And then as I was walking out the car park, I noticed on the floor £1. And I just loved that. I was like, that's the universe's way of going, well done, here's a quiz.
Yeah.
Where do you find money on the floor?
Yeah.
Instantly after I'd done my good deed, I just thought, isn't that just awesome? And that's just the universe's way of just showing you in a small way that, when you give something out, you will receive. You might not receive in the same way, you might receive in a completely random way, but that was my reward for the day.
Yeah, and that's the point of not having an expectation, right? Because that's also
Exactly.
where the vibration comes into equation, right? It's not like, oh, I'll give this person £1, and then you're just waiting and waiting for your pounds to show up or something.
Looking on the floor for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved that. Okay, so the next spiritual law is on your list, and it's the law of karma, which is also called the law of cause and effect. Which I mean, we're demonstrating this with all of these laws, really, aren't we? With what we're
Mm,
saying, do something good, something good comes back to you. But let me see what he says about it. Every action generates a force of energy that returns to us in like kind. Everyone's heard the expression the law of karma, also things like what you sow is what you reap, things like that. If we want to create happiness in our lives, we must learn to sow the seeds of happiness. And like you were saying about wanting love, if you if you're looking for a partner to come into your life and love you, but you're not very loving towards yourself and you've got self-worth issues, unfortunately, it's unlikely you're actually going to meet somebody who will love you in the way that you want them to
mm,
until you have created that love yourself internally, and then you exude that self-love, which isn't the same thing as self-confidence. It's different. It's just having respect and honoring yourself,
mhm,
including all of the things that you might perceive as flaws. And then that's when you're more likely to find somebody who will bring you that kind of energy, because that's what you're actually giving out in your field. If you've got a wounded energy field because you've been heartbroken, unfortunately, you're probably going to attract more heartbreak until you've healed from that and done the work on yourself. So yeah, karma is another. And again, would people say, "Oh, karma is a universal law"? They might not call it universal law, but that's what it is, and
mm.
everybody's heard of that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely, like you said, what you reap what you sow, which is that within that law of compensation,
Hmm.
and also it's the law of cause and effect. Um, yeah, I'm just looking. Um, it is like I don't know. Sometimes when we talk about it, and it seems kind of straightforward, but my mind is never straightforward, and I always look like for little holes and things like I see in that, and I'm thinking yes, but then that depends on this and that and that. Um, but what was I gonna say? Um, I think I would also add that law of relativity into that. Like, what was it called? Sorry, in the book.
Oh, the law of cause and effect,
Oh,
but he
okay.
just referenced karma as well.
Yeah. So yeah. It's kind of like it also makes me think of that law in physics that every action has equal and opposite reaction,
Mm.
um, where and so it's all physical manifestations are just lower vibrational energy that's actually visible, but because we're all energy, therefore it applies to anything. It's really just the energy of all of our bodies. And when I say bodies, I mean like the mental, emotional, spiritual body, physical body, and all of those can have an effect. So, with all of these laws are very helpful to know, but then I feel like to truly understand what it means and how that applies to your life, you kind of have to live it and be super self-aware, super self-aware,
Mm.
because there are so many layers to everything. You can, because I think a lot of talk is about our thoughts, like what you think or how you think,
Oh, excuse
then
me.
brings the effect. Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Then has a certain effect, but it's some of us would feel more strongly than they think, or the thought might create an emotion, or emotion creates a certain thought, and it's like, well, what was first? Was it the saying, is it the egg or the chicken? Like, do I feel first and then it creates those thoughts, or is it the other way around? And so sometimes it might get a little bit confusing, I think. And I say that because I've been working on myself for a long time. Like I have started even before I was talking or researching specifically topics of spirituality, I was very interested in the power of mind, because that was, originally, I was interested in just biology, but also psychology of people. I was fascinated why people are the way they are, and how does it work that one person has these kind of experiences in life, and the other doesn't, even though they both seem to be, let's say, ambitious, or they both have a will. And I don't know, I was always very curious about that. And it all mainly was, I think, like the mainstream psychology, psychiatry, and all of that focuses on the mind. So what you think, it's kind of like, that they focus. When I look at it visually, I think of the head and the brain, like it's all as if it's all just here, and we just think about things and we talk, whether to ourselves or others, and this is how everything is created. But really, and then over time, I would see that actually the way you talk, you speak to yourself, or you communicate, or you think, sometimes it actually, the origins of that is how you feel, really, you know because not every word or thought has the same effect or meaning to every other person. Someone might say something, and it creates different reaction in two different people. So then I suppose what I'm trying to say is that it's important, it's not all about the mental body. Make sure that you kind of notice how you're feeling, even about what you're saying, or what you're trying to, how you're trying to manifest that success, for example, from the book, you know, because then I found a lot of blocks. I could, I think, because I personally am a very positive person. I think I'm just wired that way. Maybe it could be the Gemini thing, because Geminis are generally quite positive. I was very positive. I still am, but I still, for a long time, haven't been seeing the effects of that, you know, in sort of my physical life, let's say. So, and then after a while, I would have realized that it was just what I was carrying on an energetic level, in a sense of emotion, that I had to work through. So sometimes you might need to see and address which one it is, because if you just try and think yourself into things, unless it has that vibration, right? So the law of a vibration of that thing, then you might not reach it if your whole vibration isn't vibrating at the same frequency.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and for me, it kind of begins with the thought, but not always. Usually, my thoughts create my feelings, which creates my behaviors, which creates my actions, and so on. But actually, sometimes I wake up and I just feel rubbish, and then I think negative thoughts all day, and I know it's because I'm tired. It's because I haven't looked after my physical health. So it's all connected. What comes first is, if you focus on changing one thing and then another until you feel like, okay, I'm looking after myself physically, I'm looking after myself mentally, I'm looking after myself spiritually, that whole cycle is going to be a lot better than if you neglect one of those areas. I can't think positive, optimistic thoughts if I feel rubbish. I can't do it. My brain doesn't want to because I'm tired. Don't want to think happy thoughts. So it's all connected, isn't it? Okay, this is my favorite law, actually, this next one in this book, and it's the law of least effort.
Yeah, I like
I
the
loved
sound
it
of
when I
that.
read about this. So this is talking about, and obviously, again, this is based on spiritual laws of success, and he talks about this law is based on the fact that nature's intelligence functions with effortless ease and abandoned carefreeness, and this is the principle of least action or of no resistance. This is therefore the principle of harmony and love. And if we look at nature, he talks about look around you. You know, grass doesn't try hard to grow; it just does. Flowers don't try hard to bloom; they just do. Fish don't try to swim; Birds don't try to fly, they just do it. This is their intrinsic nature. Nothing is an effort for them. They do what they are naturally inclined to do. And he said the whole Earth doesn't, the Earth doesn't try to spin on its own axis. It's the nature of the Earth to spin with dizzying speed and to hurtle through space. It's the nature of everything to do what it does. So what he's saying is, when your actions are motivated by love and being in harmony with your purpose, it will feel effortless and be a lot easier. So when you're trying to create something, if it feels like really, really, really hard work and there's some resistance, is that the right thing to create? Because it shouldn't feel like that. If you're on your path, if you're on your soul's path, you're doing what you came here to do, it shouldn't feel like you're trying to push treacle uphill. It should feel flowing. Doesn't mean it won't be hard work, lots of studying, research, what have you, but it shouldn't feel like it's a huge effort to do something that you're not meant to do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's difficult to tell sometimes, when you're doing something and trying to figure out, is it so hard because I'm not meant to be doing it, or is it just, hard because I'm overcoming some sort of beliefs maybe or
Yeah.
fears that I'm having around this subject. And I thought with that law of, is it least effort?
Mm.
Yeah, I would probably encompass in that one the law of rhythm, vibration, and gender. So there are like three laws that I kind of picked with that one.
Yeah.
The law of vibration we talked about quite a lot. That seems to be like really underpinning quite a lot of them. So you're working on your vibration, and then are you feeling that you're creating resistance to something yourself in some way, and then just kind of maybe figuring out how you can reduce that resistance. Sometimes just taking your mind off of things and really thinking about something too intensely is how you actually you remove the resistance. Because when you create the vibration of wanting something, then you will keep on wanting, because this is an emotion in
Yeah.
itself. It's a
Mm.
vibration itself. So you kind of have to stop wanting,
Yeah.
you know. So that's definitely one, and that creates least effort, right? Because I think wanting is quite takes a lot of effort.
Mm.
It's a packed energy. And then the law of rhythm, which just talks about that everything has a rhythm, and we all know that, and it's all even scientifically proven. If anyone wants some, proofs here, we can observe it ourselves. There are seasons on Earth. Everything from birth till death. That's a cycle. That's a rhythm. The rhythms of the moon, the rhythms of the tides, the rhythms of the Earth's, like I said, four, what is it, cycles, the spring, summer, autumn, winter. So there's
Mhm.
a rhythm to everything, and it also includes us as people. And that also means that things will end, new things will start. We can never stay constant. Uh, um, well, yeah, we can never keep things in the exact same way. Things will change because that is the nature of life. So by trying to stay the same, that's creating resistance. You kind of have to let things flow, you know. And then the law of gender, I thought, because the law of gender talks about the two energies, masculine and feminine, that everyone has. And, the in short, the feminine energy would be the one of receptivity, of spirituality, of intuition, but also it's an energy of practicality, and also kind of very much, yeah, I think spirituality is the best way I can express it, because it's the energy of knowing and connecting the dots in a big picture. And then you have the masculine energy, which is the energy of doing, protecting, and kind of more streamlined. So this is where we're planning, we're being strategic, but also being strong, and they both exist in everything and everyone, but we tend to suppress sometimes one more than the other. These days, it's mostly, I mean, for centuries now, you know, in our human years, that's a very long time, but universe's years, that's not a very long time. But we have been just focused on masculine mostly, where we just do, and we put our will. So masculine is also putting our will into something where sometimes we just need to sit back and just wait. So that would be like, least effort, I suppose. So, you know, kind of let yourself just be receptive and open to receive, even if it's like inspiration, because sometimes, um, and that brings another law, which is law of inspired action. So it's not the inspired action law is not about taking action. Sometimes it's you just need to sit back, relax, not expect anything, let things flow, and then you will be inspired with what you're meant to be doing. And it will feel less effort.
Yeah.
It will just come to you. You'll feel it. And if you're cultivating masculine and feminine energies, then you will trust your feeling and your intuition within that inspired action.
Yeah, and if it's inspired, actually, I was just going to say exactly what you said. It again, it shouldn't feel like effort because it's coming from a higher source for your highest good based on what you've come here to achieve. And when we look at the world, the planet, if we look back in time, it's been very masculine dominated physically as well. Women weren't allowed in politics. Women weren't generally queens very often. It was usually kings. It's the first male born that takes the throne, and men did everything. So the world became very masculine in its energy. And it's only now, really, in quite recent times, that that's starting to change and balance a bit and bring that balance to the whole world through our systems, through everything. Um,
Yeah, with that, I just want to say like one thing that I have. I mean, those are my own thoughts, and if anyone feels like that as well, let me know. But I feel like the the masculine and feminine, like you said, it was because it's physically it is kind of represented by men and women, right? Like female, male, in a very like obvious, let's say, way. But these days, or the last however many decades, where we see the movement of females who are taking the space, let's say. However, they are taking a space in a very masculine way, is what I have come to see. Because for a long time, I thought, like when I was not noticing my feminine energy for a long time, and I had this worldview that was pretty much given to me. It wasn't mine, really, of what it means to bring balance is to almost like trying to prove yourself to be like the man or like the masculine energy, instead of what noticing that feminine is actually different, and it's meant to be different, but it's just as important, because the whole point was that it was completely suppressed. And I just wanted to read out the qualities of divine feminine, so that maybe that will explain a little bit more of what I'm trying to say. So the qualities of divine feminine are intuitive, heart centered, compassionate, wise, accepting, forgiving, collaborative, reflective, creative, sensual, kind, and gentle. So those are all of the things that I think we're still battling with when it comes to acknowledging how important they are, and how they bring balance. Like you can't be just willful and action oriented and logical and rational and all of the other things that the divine masculine would have. Actually, let me just have a look if I can just read the divine masculine so we have an idea of what that would be. So, divine masculine, risk taking, assertiveness, action oriented, disciplined, boundaries, confidence, objectivity, logic and analysis, warrior, it's the yang energy, and survival. So I can see definitely in media, when I would watch movies or I don't know series or whatever, and it has a very strong female characters, but they are very much masculine from what I can see. I can't see yet much of the rise and understanding of what it is the feminine. It's not about females and women who or people who identify as female to be more visible in a sense of like, well, whilst acquiring all of these masculine attributes, and they are now, I have all of these masculine attributes, and but I am a woman, so therefore I am, you know, making a change. Do you know what I mean? Like it is important, but I would love to see at some point for the feminine qualities to be acknowledged and valued, because they do bring tremendous value that we can definitely I think we will see how if that was brought up more, it would bring a lot more balance to the world, and we definitely need compassion for sure. We need to be like open our creativity, and we need all of those qualities really. Reflective for sure, right? Because there is just so much. Let's just do, and it's basically the opposite of feminine, and we both have, everyone has divine masculine and feminine,
Yeah.
whether you're a man or a woman, however you identify, doesn't really matter. We all have it, yet we still, I feel, to a bigger extent suppress the feminine side, or we don't put so much value onto that side of us.
Mhm. I think it's the value part that's really important, because any movies and TV shows you watch, the hero is always depicted as being brave and outspoken and this, that, and the other. But you wouldn't have, we haven't just got that type of person in the world. Thank God, because we'd all be fighting each other all the time if we did.
And
So
we do, don't we? I
yeah,
mean, all of the wars, really, we do that.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
we always have done. And
yeah,
now is the biggest time for change that I think the planet has seen in a very long time. We're even losing the gender identity, because why do we need it? Why do we need to? We don't need to behave certain ways because we're born male or female. I know a lot of men who are very feminine. I know lots of women who are very masculine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore, as long as we've got balance within ourselves and within our societies, and that we don't just favour one over the other, because, well, how far has that got us so far?
yeah, exactly. And it
It's not
doesn't
bad,
matter.
it's too much of it. It's not a bad thing. We can't eradicate that, because then we'll have the opposite problem. But it just needs harmonizing and balancing, and that's what this book really, all of these laws are all about.
Exactly. And it just doesn't matter on a very, very basic physical level how you're born. It's just, just be yourself. Like it
I know. I
doesn't,
think we're
like you
starting
don't
to
have
get
to.
that now. I think we're
Yeah.
starting to realize that just because you're born a boy or a girl doesn't mean you have to do certain things.
Certain things are which was very, very strongly, I think, what's the word? Like
Prevalent?
you would be brought up in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
I think it definitely changes nowadays, but to a certain extent still. Um, you would like buy different toys. If it's a girl, different toys. If it's a boy, and it's like, does it really matter? Just let
No,
the child play. Yeah,
get whatever
whatever they want to
they
play.
enjoy. Yeah, I think more people are going for that now, which is great because it
Mm.
means that children are being encouraged to just do what feels right for them. It doesn't
Mm.
matter, and maybe they want to experience a bit of all of that. You know, maybe one day they want to play with Action Man and the next day Barbie. I appreciate those toys are probably not even around anymore. I'm going back to my childhood now. Whatever kids play with
I
these
don't know.
days,
I
it
don't
might
even know.
still be. I
I
think,
might find out, but I don't know.
yeah.
I just remember from my childhood, I was just interested in things like puzzles. Like I really liked puzzles. And I could never figure out what on earth am I supposed to be doing with dolls. Like I actually, because I would be gifted dolls, and my friends would have dolls, and they wanted to play with them, which again is totally fine. But I was always like, I don't know what to do. Like I just, I don't get it. Can I just like build a puzzle or something?
I'm like
Like
that now with actual babies.
put in,
I'm like that now with actual babies. I'm just like, what do I do with it?
yeah, yeah,
I'm not that bad. I know how to hold one, but that's about it.
yeah,
After that,
yeah.
I'm like,
I
it's
didn't
crying.
know.
What do I do?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't. But you see, that's the part because I was the same. I had no clue about babies. Like I never dealt with babies. I never was drawn to babies. If someone brought their baby to work or something, and I would be like, oh well, that's cute, but like, okay, let's just continue working. I never. But then now, because for those who don't know, I'm expecting a baby. It didn't mean just because I wasn't that much, let's call it, into it. It doesn't mean that I rejected children or whatever. Like I didn't like them. Like obviously I do because I decided to have one. But that's where I feel that divine feminine energy comes in, of intuition, and probably I don't know where instinct kind of falls into this feminine or
I would say masculine because it's survival, isn't it?
yeah.
Mm.
So I think so. There you go. So there's a nice balance of survival and also intuition, where I can, I'm finding stuff out logically, like through mental energy, let's say, reading and people talking and things. But then I also feel and know intuitively and instinctively how a little baby should be treated. I don't, because I think if we overthink
Yeah.
stuff, then that's how we make mistakes, maybe a bit more often, and or at least we become too anxious because we can't ever be 100% certain on things because it's all relative, right? Law of relativity. We
Yeah.
can never be 100% certain because some things might be different for you than they are for somebody else. So you kind of have to just fall back into this intuitive self that will just lead you, because the intuitive and instinctive, because we are spirit but we're also physical body is the survival, the instinct of survival and what to do, kind of, I suppose, logically, in that sense, be reasonable, but then also trust yourself and your intuition, and that's kind of how, because I think before, if I were to have a child, let's say at least over 5 years ago, I would be a ball of nerves because I would be using expressions such as I don't know, I don't have all the knowledge, I would probably like, who knows, would be writing things down, or probably would be searching for everything on the internet, asking everyone. And now I'm like, sure, I read a few things here and there. Some say this, some say something else, but I'm not getting too anxious about it. I just know that I'll be fine because my intuition will kick in and I'll know what to do anyway. So, so yeah, so that's how it just happens
Yeah.
anyway. If you just trust yourself and
Yeah, and
just
that
let that
brings in,
feminine side out. Sorry, yeah,
yeah, no, it's okay. That brings in the law of least effort again as well, doesn't
yeah,
it? Because again, if we watch nature, there's no instruction books handed out to animals when they have babies, and they just do things, and you think, wow, aren't they clever? Their instinct is incredible because they're not attached to a thinking mind that gets in the way of their instincts
Mm.
and their intuitive knowing about, oh, my child needs me, so I'll go
Hmm.
to them without knowing that they need them and stuff like that. You know, mothers in the wild just do their thing. They do their thing and they don't worry about it. Not that we know of anyway. I can't imagine them. I can't imagine them
Yeah,
worrying.
I don't know. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, it's that's and that goes back to Mother Nature. Mother Nature is of a feminine energy.
Yeah,
She knows what to do, you know, and just even not even giving birth or looking after the little child. It's like you just let nature do what it does, and within 9 months you have a baby. It's like, you know, do you really have to know what's happening? You don't.
no,
It just does.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, so all of these things, I think we can apply it to anything that we do in life, and that's how we create balance, and we actually can get somewhere in life in general a little bit less, with a bit less effort, if we apply both sides. It's one, to know, uh, but two, you kind of have to feel that it's right as well,
Yeah,
and also let yourself be inspired and creative, right? Because those are all the feminine qualities. When you feel inspired, you're open to the universe and all kinds of possibilities. Then you can go into your masculine of taking action when you feel it's right and the time
yeah,
is right, etc., etc. So when you just let both of your senses, let's call it, or qualities, work together, then it just makes things so much easier.
yeah. And that was a bit that I read in the book about the law of least effort, and it was again applying it to this being a book about laws of success. Was saying it's not saying don't take any action. What it's saying is the action shouldn't drain you. So if you,
Mm.
and the intention behind the action is what creates effortless action or action that's a bit of a struggle. If your intention is to make loads and loads of money, to spend it on yourself, to look after number one, I don't care who I tread on to get where I need to get to, that takes a lot of effort and energy. If your intention is I'm going to make some money to have an enjoyable life, to spend time with my loved ones, to do good things, I might give some of it to charity, I might spend some of it on me, and there's all of that balance and flow. That will be easier to earn the money because it will feel more effortless. Whereas if your intention is I want, and I will knock everybody out of the way to get where I'm going, that takes more effort and energy. And then it goes against you because you're working against a universal law, which then feels like you're pushing treacle up a hill. It's really hard work. And again, that intention, inspired action comes from inspiration. If you're inspired by your spirit guides or anybody else, it's only going to come from a place of love. So it's just getting into that space.
Hmm. And
Mm.
then uh, maybe slightly off topic, but I just, whilst you were talking, I just remembered that because that list of feminine energy qualities that I read out, I feel like it kind of missed out a couple of things, because the birth and death, that's a feminine energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the energies of, I think that's known as Goddess Kali, who is a goddess of destruction, but the destruction is needed in order for something new to be birthed. I think if we were to observe nature, because like I said, it's feminine energy, we can see all of the laws kind of in nature, of, you know, natural disasters and such, that would wipe out a part of itself to then, you know, but it will always grow. So it's always evolving and it's always growing. And it's a very, and the fact that it's the divine feminine is a very powerful energy, because I
Mm.
think the things that I read out, you know, like compassionate, sensitive, intuition, it kind of probably brings maybe a bit of the energy of these days weakness, as if it is, but it isn't. that's the misconception that has been perpetuated for a very, very long time. And it actually isn't. It's actually a very powerful energy that if we tap into, we will really see quite powerful effects of that. Yeah, sorry, I just kind of like jumped over to something else because I just wanted to mention that as well. So yeah,
Awesome. See, I thought we've run out of time, but there is still, I mean, there's so much that we could say on this topic. And I think
how many did you read out in the end from the book?
I've got the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh left. So I only did four.
Oh, okay, okay. So we could carry on then the other ones.
We could indeed, yeah, because they all link to the ones that you've got, and then obviously if there will be some left of yours as well to go through. So we could do another session on it because there's such a lot, and it all sort of interconnects with each other as well, which is interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for today. If anyone has any questions or would like us to talk about something in particular, maybe that you liked, and you would like us to talk a bit more on that, let us know. Well, if you're watching on replay, you can just leave a comment, basically, whether it's YouTube or my Facebook group. So yeah, thank you very much, Mel. And as usual, I'll see you next time.
Will do. Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.